What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with some more Age of Mythology. The Titans action spawning in the bottom of the map in the blue color, playing as Ra. His name is Joe. His opponent today in the red color playing as Odin. His name is Hagrit. It's currently 1-0 for Hagrit, taking that first game. Taking that first game off of Joe's Uranus with his Zeus. Now going in with the Odin. He's going to have his work cut out for him. Even the best Odin players struggle against Joe's Ra. And we'll see what Joe's got in store for us. There's a multitude of different Ra abuse strategies that Joe has at his disposal. We might see, as this is a relatively high hunt map, as the Pharaoh's scouting around, spotting the elk over here, spotting the boar over here, spotting the boar in the middle of the map. This might be one of those strategies that we know and hate, the old one town center Sphinx shenanigans. Now, here's the thing. This is the real rub here. There is more to the one town center Sphinx strategy than just a straight fast mythic, and this is what players don't fully understand. Especially from the outset, if you're kind of watching what's going through an Odin player's brain when they're playing against Ra, when Ra picks Bast, first thing you think is, shit, I've got to deal with Sphinx raids. How do I deal with Sphinx raids? Well, I got to wall up, basically, and I got to just have my Herser back. The next thing is you got to be like, well, what if he doesn't go Sphinx? He could just be going Bast and then going for Scarabs or going for Pitsukos Mass into a really big timing in the Heroic Age, which people don't see very much, is very, very strong. So then they have to prepare for that. And then thirdly, they could be like, well, it could just be a Bast classical fight. It could just be going hard classical fight, Sphinx, Axeman, Spearman, and then what does the Odin do? There's so much stuff that an Odin player needs to scout out in order to survive. Luckily for the Odin, though, Odin has access to map hacks, so there's really no excuse. But all that being said, it's still a very, very difficult thing to overcome. As we're starting to see the houses getting thrown up. Looks like Joe's looking a little bit on the slow side here on this house, but he should be fine. He doesn't need to empower it, but he's going to be empowering it nonetheless here. As more dwarves coming out over here for Hagrit, making his way through in this game. Has a little bit of a weird one here with these two villages. They might not, this ox cart might not be produced in time. These guys are going to have a little bit of a wander back to this ox cart, but no problems really. And we'll see how it's going to go as the ox cart moving forward. And that's life. As the temple getting thrown down. Already one monument with for Joe, a relatively early temple here for Joe. Joe's normally throwing it up either pretty late or with multiple villages. So he might be hitting a decent timing here. Now you can do a 4:30 advance time with Ra off with two monuments, only one villager on a temple. Thanks so much for the 200 bits, Banana Theseus. Appreciate your support, my friend. So the temple going up, but like I said, you can do this 4:30 and get a lot more pressure done with it. But Joe likes to go a little bit later, get the villagers onto wood and deal with it that way. As we are going to be seeing the monument to the soldiers coming up. The food is kind of already ready for him to advance. So he's going to be advancing very, very shortly here. And we do indeed see Bast. So Hagrid's got his work cut out for him. Now, the walls are already coming down, so Hagrid is reading this one quite nicely. The temple is already on to this town center over here, so 100% what he does need to do is grab a second town center against Bast. It counters the classical fight, it counters the one town center semi-fast mythic, or one town center fast mythic, somewhat. What it does encounter is if Joe goes straight fast heroic and goes for a one town center heroic age timing with a relatively early mythic age to boot. That doesn't counter that. So we'll see if that's what's going to happen here and what Joe's actually planning. But This is 100% Joe's strategy. I believe he was one of the first ones to go with the two monuments, Sphinx Sphinx Fast Mythic. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him do something slightly different. I would be surprised to see him do something slightly different. As the Valkyrie pops out, the Longhouse comes down. It's a safety Longhouse to make sure he gets units out. Starting the town center really early doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and he's just making sure, just in case Bars comes through, that he's ready for everything. Because if Tar comes through, he has to be ready for that as well. We didn't talk about the practicality of that, as Hagrit will now see the Bast, the Valkyrie coming in, and we do see a barracks down for Joe. This here makes me feel both worried and like happy, because the barracks play is able to be countered with correct play from the Odin. The problem is that correct play is really hard to do. So first thing you want to do is get yourself watchtowers and make sure you have hurtables. If you've got hurtables, you're fine. So you go 2 town centers, and you just have to, if you have to farm, you have to farm, but you want to be getting to the heroic gauge as best as you can, as we do see that the Valkyrie gets hit yet again by the Sphinx, so the Sphinx has to retreat away. There's already a Hearser here, but a handful of Axemen going to be coming through. A second barracks going to get dropped down for Joe here, as he is going to be putting that pressure on. I like this wall over here as well from Hagrit, doing everything he can, as we're starting to see some Ulfsark coming out here. Obviously, you don't really want to be building Ulfsark, but you kind of have to. In a way, you could build throwing Axemen here, or Hearser out of this Longhouse. Hearser will probably make a little bit more sense, a little bit slower to build, but going to be a little bit more useful in the army. But now we see the Axemen moving forward, and that's going to be Hagrid's ticket to retreat back to his base. He shouldn't stay here anymore. The 4 Axemen, more than enough to deal with the Hearser, and then basically Joe gets map control here, but Hagrid's got access to the significant advantage of having the town centers, as we do see the Sphinx going after the villagers. Getting damage done onto the Sphinx really doesn't do all too much, because they can just get healed back up. So you do have to be fairly wary about that. Better not to lose your Hearser and just keep them in safe positions. We do see husbandry coming through. Plenty of deer left in the base though, but Joe has to be a little bit careful about whether he goes onto that or not at this point, as the town center is now up. Another Longhouse going to be coming down, throwing Axemen coming through. The real problem here for Hagrid is, at no point does he have a real army that beats the Axeman Sphinx until, like, even if there's no army. There's really no army that beats Axeman Sphinx. Like, even if you micro well, if the Ra player out micros you even just a little bit, you lose. If it's equal micro, you probably still lose. So the best bet is actually just to rush Ragnarok or rush a Fimbulwinter to get an advantage there, and maybe get your myth units out in order to deal some damage here, as we do see the Sphinx getting chased down nicely. The Hearser getting a lot of shots off as this Sphinx gets very close to falling here, as the Axemen going to be swinging around here. This Hearser going to get caught out. Nice play there from Joe, able to take that one down. More houses coming through. Hagrid still doesn't have his watchtowers up as he's kind of wasting wood right now on houses. Thanks so much for the raiding party, Shelty. Hope your games have gone good here, or gone good today, as the villagers eating up these deer on the front. The Sphinx going to be getting some real good damage done here, as Joe's getting himself Cryo Sphinx. The question is he still building military units? Answer, no. So it's going to be a semi-fast heroic here of some variety, which is very scary for Hagrid. And the question really does come down to, like, well, what is Hagrid going to be doing as a response? His ravens aren't really sitting in the right spot. You kind of want to be roughly around where the buildings are to have a good idea of what's being produced, so you don't produce like too many units or something like that, because you do have to react very well to what your opponent is doing here, as the hunt is just about to be cleaned up, and the Axemen still moving forward in onto this position. The throwing Axemen able to get a good amount of damage done from afar, and honestly, like, Hagrid can just sit back here. He needs to just get watchtowers and wall around this sentry tower instead of putting these houses here. The houses are a target in a big way here for Joe, as more houses are coming up. Going to finish up those deer. He really doesn't need to move over onto these chicken, but he is going to be going for a little bit of a risky move here, moving out onto these elk. The problem is for Joe is he's got no idea that that's happening at this point. I mean, Joe should know that there are potential for there to be villagers over here, but he's just retreating back right now. And we are still seeing Hagrid producing military units, as Hathor is now coming through for Joe. As like right now, Joe can do kind of whatever he wants. He's still making the military units, but what I mean by Joe can do whatever he wants right now is not necessarily he can just do anything and win, but he can pick any way forward in this game and attempt to win with that. So he could stay in the heroic age here and go for like a classic siege tower, classical army kind of mixed with the Sphinx and a big eclipse push. And that's going to be tough to stop. He can go for the mythic age, tornado, and push forward. He can grab town centers now. Go for a really big locust or something like that. Hopefully get a whole bunch of kills. Lots of options here. We do see the dwarves over on this position here as Hagrit's going to be attempting to get up to the next age himself. He has the armory up already as units trying to push through. We got some nice building placement though from Hagrit as Joe is forced back at this point here. As the villagers continuing to long distance wood chop over here. We do have an ox cart on the way, but a little bit slow nonetheless here. As Hagrit's going to be getting himself watchtowers. As soon as he sees Hathor, as soon as he sees Hathor, watchtowers make sense. You want to get watchtowers, you do have to deal with the rock. It wouldn't be a bad idea to throw a sentry tower, exactly, throwing up a tower over here. And also thinking about getting Axe of Muspel. That is the upgrade for throwing Axemen to get bonus damage versus flying units. Very, very important to do that one here as we do see the Sphinx coming through onto this position. This stray Ulfsark does get taken out here as the rock moving forward. We see siege works coming in and I like this from Joe, but he doesn't have the population just yet or the population room to do this. So there's a really, really crazy idea that Joe can do right now with this rock in order to jump onto this town center and cause real chaos, and that's to use siege towers, jump in the rock, move in, drop said siege towers directly on top of the town center, and then just say goodbye town center, cast eclipse, and live the dream here, as Hagrit is now just only able to advance to the next age here. He might want to cancel this dwarf and advance here. He's getting Axe of Muspel. We see the crenellations coming through for Hagrid as well, but that's a little bit slow. We see the rock running over here. Locust does get dropped down. Eclipse getting dropped down. All the villagers here getting picked off. That's a beautiful usage of Locust, picking off so many villagers as Hagrid's advantage drops down to only 7 here after being 2 town centers for the most part here. 2 Patukos, 3 Sphinx. No heroes out for Hagrid anymore as Joe's army is going to absolutely massacre Hagrid's army here. We are seeing Scardy on the way, but is it too little too late? One Frost Giant is not going to cut it. Hagrid drops down to 62 population. We see the siege tower moving in to try and take this town center down, but Hagrid gets absolutely destroyed there from that god power combo. Absolutely bonkers. Scardy now finally starting to research, but Hagrid's got 65 population. Joe's got 102 population. A second town center is on the way. The town center going to be falling here for Hagrid. Hagrid does still have a slight villager advantage, but all of his military buildings getting taken down. He's got no military buildings in his home base here. The rock does end up falling, but the town center going to go down. There is a safe gold mine over here to some degree. Obviously, a rock could come in and easily clean that one up as more villagers here getting taken down. Hagrid trying to retreat away. Signal fires on the way right now for Hagrid as well to see if he can have a little bit more knowledge of what's going on the map. But the Hersa on this location getting taken down as the siege tower going to roll over here to finish off the temple. Move over here onto the watchtower as well as another dwarf getting taken down. The watchtower on this position is kind of not long for the world either. And now the dwarves didn't even make a break for it. So they're also cut off. So this is another 9 potential villager kills, which is a hard going to drop Hagrid below Joe in this game in terms of villager count. Not only that, the dwarves going after a bear there as now they're retreating back, but the Patsuka's going to go after them. Very, very nice. We see a Frost getting dropped onto this position to try and keep his dwarves alive. The villagers now moving over onto this gold mine now. We see a temple coming up for Hagrid at this point. He doesn't actually get his free Frost Giant, I don't think, which is a little bit bad for him. He's got 1 longhouse over here and a mountain to climb in this game as the Dwarves going to hang on this gold mine for as long as they possibly can. But now we do have Spearman moving in onto this position. Spearman, pesky little units here, 7.7 damage. Joe kind of being a little bit disrespectful right now, moving forward and grabbing this forward town center right underneath his nose. We do see a forest fire getting dropped over here to try and allow the Dwarves to retreat away. I don't think that Joe should really care about this. His Spearmen aren't that valuable, and those Dwarves getting killed off are obviously very, very valuable himself. As we see another longhouse coming up, Hagrit's got plenty of resources in the bank, but not able to spend them here. And this is a classic case of Odin players. What do you do against Ra? Big question mark is you have to read the strategy of which the Ra player is doing perfectly in order to counter it. And this strategy here from Joe is slightly unused. We don't see this one very much because it requires maybe just a little bit more skill and a little bit more macro knowledge. And Joe, obviously the master of Egypt, able to come in and execute this flawlessly, and Hagrid just in a world of pain. If you ask me, what a seasoned Norse player would do here is, as soon as you see the Axemen research watchtowers, don't build a single unit except for Herser to sit back underneath said towers, wall chips around them, go to the heroic age, drop Migdal or drop double hill forts on this town center, and then make Jarl and kind of pray that you can get Frost off before the eclipse comes down somewhat. You want to cast the Frost early so you can get the advantage there. Alternatively, you build the hill forts in your main base, you sack this town center, you go Mythic Age, you cast Ragnarok, and then you cry if it doesn't work. Honestly, a tough one, an incredibly brutal strategy here from Joe, showcasing some of Ra's incredibly strong points and some of Odin's incredibly weak points here. If you guys enjoyed this game, please consider hitting the follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next game.